Okay, well, I should have got some of this on tape when these Brislawn brothers was alive. They was the ones that started the Spanish Mustang Registry in 1959. And of course, when they talk Mustang, this is a multitude of sins you're covering. They had about 5 different breeds. Some of the Indians had perfected. They claim the Indian never done anything for civilization, but he perfected several breeds of horses. Oklahoma Indians perfected the Choctaw or Chickasaw Indian pony. The Ute Indians in western Utah or eastern Utah bred up what they called a medicine hat or a warbon. Now, these horses are basically body colored white with a red roan, and they've got a shield over their ears, and a shield on their chest, and a shield around their tail. And these all belong to the chief. Usually if they got one perfectly marked like that, they'd give that to the chief. They had the legend that he couldn't be killed when he was on one of these horses. Then they had an Indian blue corn, and I don't know which tribe of Indians bred them up. That was in probably northeastern Texas and Oklahoma. There was what they called an Indian blue corn. And they were born dark blue and stayed blue all their life. Our domestic breeds are born black, go blue, and by the time they're 12 to 14 years old, it's white. So they definitely had some of these breeds. Now the Chickasaw pony, Choctaw, they called them both. They were fast. They outrun some of the Kentucky thoroughbred horses. They were small horses, but they were clean built like a thoroughbred, and they were really fast little horses. But most of these horses, large size, they run from 700 in the mares up to around 900 in the male through stallion. And then the Nez Perce Indian along the Palouse River in Idaho bred and perfected the Appaloosa horse in this country. And they claim they have pictures and so forth and cave drawings in ancient China of Appaloosa horses, but I'm not sure if they was shipped in from China or if the Indians had them here from the beginning of time, because the Nez Perce did practice modern day castration, but instead of having masculators the way we do, they done it with 2 rocks. They mashed those cards with rocks, and that pinched them so the horse wouldn't bleed. And they had the Appaloosa horse perfected when the white man came west. So you know it's taken them a lot of years to perfect the breed that way. Then that group of horses was all killed off to conquer the Indians, and they've never been able to breed them back the way the Indians had them. They were a well-proportioned horse, had small heads, and civilization tried to build them back, but they haven't got the job done. But then there was another pony, and they were probably closely related to this Nez Perce Appaloosa horse. But we did obtain 2 mares and a stud of these, and we turned them loose on the Mustang Ranch at Calian, Nevada. The stud was a little older, and he was a calico, spotted color, but his spots weren't round. They were a rectangle like they'd been painted on with a brush. And they had small, nice proportioned heads, nice proportioned bodies. The 2 mares were solid bay, and just showed just a slight roaning across the roan. When they was 4 years old, they changed color and came out with a yappy color with the brushed rectangle boxes on them. I'm not sure if these guys, I kind of got out of that association. I'm not sure if they've kept some of these down there or not. Then we had another horse, the Ilobelski in northeast Nebraska, accumulated some somewhere, and he was raising it back there, and he called them a native barb horse. These are the ones that have only the 5 lumbar vertebrae in the back, and they have 2 less pairs of ribs than our domestic horses. They've got 25 pair of ribs instead of 27, and then the horse they brought in from Spain was what we term an Andalusian, which got its name from the Andalusia part of Spain, where they were bred up and raised there. Those horses were brought into here by the Spaniards, and they were definitely a distinct different breed of horse. They had what they told us was impossible in the early days. They said you couldn't have a fused vertebrae in the back. This Andalusian horse had a fused vertebrae. It had 5 1/2. And the last segment on the tail end before the crupper was fused to the 5th vertebrae, solid. And so they're definite breeds that came from different countries, and they claim these horses all died out and became extinct. But if we compare this to, say, the buffalo or the American bison, he was unique to this country. You can't import him. Well, this barb horse with the 5 vertebrae, this was my challenge to the academic world, was to import some of them from a different country. And so far, they haven't been able to do it. They can duplicate the Andalusian horse from Spain, but not the barb horse, it's only the 5 vertebrae. So there's a lot of question about how these horses originated and what they done. Well, the horse is really an adaptable animal. They, like today, they have keep horses and use some in Alaska. They played a big part in the gold rush days, you know, where like Chilkoot Pass, when so many guys got killed up there and froze to death that winter. So there's a question in my mind of if a buffalo could survive here and the Earth's surface didn't make him extinct, why would it make the horse extinct? So I think this barb 5 vertebrae horse is definitely been bred. There may have been some evolution there, but I don't think evolution plays too much part in things. If you really take a hard look at evolution, you can see what happened. The mammoth was an extremely large animal, became extinct. The dinosaur became extinct because of his size and probably earth conditions. Then we had a saber-toothed tiger, and he became extinct because his canines got so large he couldn't kill large enough prey, couldn't open his mouth far enough to kill large prey, so he became extinct. And then the Irish elk in Ireland became extinct because they grew such massive horns. They didn't have enough muscle to control these horns, and their own weapon became a menace to them. See? And they became extinct. So there's a lot of controversy on this. I've looked at the American Museum of Natural History sequence of what they have back there from Eohippus right on up, and Smithsonian Institute, American Museum of Natural History. There's 6 large gaps in there that I can't believe that there was such a thing as evolution from a dog-sized animal up to the size of a horse. Now, it's been argued also that the chestnuts were the remainder of the receding digit, the 2 outside toes, one on each side. Well, if we look at these chestnuts on a horse, we have a chestnut above the knee on the front legs, but that chestnut is below the hock on the back leg. These are only on the inside. They only show on the inside. The outside of the horse's leg shows nothing at all. So it's a question if these receding digits did go up the leg like they claim they could have. I definitely have my doubts there on that. Two, I've noticed that the real wild horses, and what few is left of them, they retain more of a uniform size. Now, in the early days, the old timers are in the late 30s, early 40s. They could sell these horses by the pound, which started the meat market at 2 cents a pound. Okay, they went out and they turned domestic horses, which were larger, into those horses to try to increase the size and make more money off the horse meat. And the little Mustang studs had killed their stallions. They didn't survive. If they did, any of them that survived, they weren't adapted. The shell on their hoof was a lot thinner. They got sore-footed and got down in condition, winter killed, and they was in poor condition. The little Mustang studs that were tough, they just killed it. So there's been a retention here of the old original bloodlines that were out there. Now we have another thing which I want to get into for my own personal thing. The only thing I've seen is what I've read, and they've started registry on these horses now. That's what they call a curly horse. There's only one place in the world they've ever found them, and that's in central Nevada. They got a longer hair, and it's tightly curled all over the body. And they are definitely a well-proportioned, good-looking horse. Nature molded these animals to fit the size that nature would support and the size that would get around. I've seen some of the larger horses, which Standard Horse and Mule Association bred for the military, the remount service, on Lakeside, up on the west side of Salt Lake, the lake itself. There's a range of mountains in there, and Standard Horse and Mule raised horses in the early days for the remount service. Draft blood was in there. We've caught horses out there that went over 1,200 pounds. But they couldn't run in that rough country. They'd break the cartilage in their knees. We caught 2 or 3 out there with broken cartilage, and they was going on their hind legs like a kangaroo. It was about all they had, and they developed a real strong loin. So it's definitely nature's choice of what makes these horses and so on. Let's take a little break.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting, Kent. Now, you said you wrote some stuff for the BLM or something?
Yeah, but they published this one time. My ex-wife was the original on this. I'm going to sit down, do some more written.
Yeah.
Now this was, well, another thing that I don't like. I don't know whether you've got into it
That's
or not.
Prior Mountain, yeah.
This was published in BLM's edition.
Mm-hmm.
This was when the only horse biologist they had was that Ron Hall, and he got mad at the BLM and quit. Now this confirmation I was telling you about, this was made up. And what I started to say is this stuff wasn't made by one individual. I done it up and copyrighted it, but Henry Shippen made these original drawings of the spine. And a lot of this came from Bob and Ferdinand Brislawn. Now if you can imagine, old Ferdinand was, he was married to Pat Garrett's daughter. One, that sheriff that killed Billy the Kid.
Oh, really? I'll be doggone.
Yeah, I've got old Ferdy gave me a bridle bit in here, and he didn't know. He couldn't remember if it was Billy's or if it was old Pack's. Do you drink coffee?
No, I'm not a coffee drinker. No.
But I made a toilet paper holder out of it to keep it.
Oh, really? Huh. This is interesting stuff here.
There's the pictures in the back.
Yeah,
there.
I'm planning.
Refers
So
back,
this, I'll be doggone. Yeah,
this
this is what
refers
you
back
wrote
to
out.
all the pictures.
Yeah, right.
See,
Mm-hmm.
and outer appearances of the horse.
Yeah, right.
And here's your different spines. Now here's your Andalusian fuse.
Yeah. Now, did you do all of this? Did you write up? How much of this did you write up?
Well, just this confirmation.
Oh, okay, that's what you wrote up. What about the pictures and stuff?
Well, I drew them.
Really?
I drew all these pictures. It's surprising what you come up with when you take an actual photo. You take a piece of translucent paper and lay over it.
And that's what you did, huh?
And trace it without all the mane and forelock and all the whole different ball game out of it.
So you did all of this, huh, on there?
Well, on that confirmation,
yeah, right.
It's all.
Well, you have cut quite a bit here, actually.
Drew
that you did.
Pictures. I did give BLM exclusive right to publish that one time only.
Yeah.
But
Kids can't.
they have this one bunch of horses out here where most of this information came from, right out here on the Utah-Nevada border.
Right. Yeah.
And they have been, I think, more or less color selection. They've been putting these horses, turning them loose when they've taken some off. The ones that showed the outer appearance of the barb.
Yeah, right.
Now, most of these horses in the early days were all of a dun color, very few white markings. A good wild horse munch will never show white front feet. They'll sometimes have short little white boots behind. But I think this nature's bred that out of them. Maybe they bred the bald face out because they were an easier target for predators. See? But all this white marking came in with civilization and man.
Where did you get the information for this? Where did you learn about that or find out about it, Ken?
Well, this is what I was going to tell you. This is not my opinion alone. There were several of us that done a lot of this research and looked. Now, they told us in the beginning there was no such thing as a perfectly round cannon bone in a horse. It had to be oval. Well, as the Brislawns had some of these horses and died of old age and so forth, we actually cut some of those leg bones in two and found out and they were round.
They were round.
They were round. Then we gathered up some of the spines of these horses, see the actual spine. It's not a theory, it's an actual thing.
Right.
They say, oh, you can't have that. Well, okay. You can tell me I'm wrong, but you can't tell nature it's wrong. See, it's there. The evidence is there for all this stuff.
Where did you gather up the bones and the spines? Was that the Brislawn horses you were looking at?
Some of them were Brislawn horses where he traveled the country gathering different types I was telling you about. And of course he started out, and sometimes it was gone 3 years at a time. He packed for the U.S. Geological Survey from Mexico to Canada. And as he got older, Bob decided these pack animals weren't any good. The old time Mustang, they used to turn them loose and follow. Then as they started using domestic horses, he got to the point where he had to tie them in strings and lead them off, which was quite dangerous in rough country. So this is what got him interested to go back and find some of the original breeds of horses he'd used years before. So So he gathered up some of each type up there, and it's amazing how the man could run those horses. He'd put a stud in a corral, in a large corral, with a bunch of mares until that stud adopted those mares, and he'd turn him out with these other bunches, and he never did have a bunch mix up. They all kept their own mares. A lot of times, now he told me that you could take one of those studs that had his own band of mares, and they could bring another outside mare into him, and he wouldn't breed them. He didn't want anything to do with them. He'd run them out of the bunch, and just flat wouldn't have anything to do with them. Then they've said these horses inbred, that's why they're small. Well, that's not the case. I've watched these about 100 hours out here with field glasses and spotting scope. And these old studs will fight for a colt faster than the mare. But when those colts are a year old, he cleans them all out of the bunch. Now, I think there's two reasons. I don't know, this is what I've observed, but there's two reasons for that. Number one is so he won't inbreed on his own daughter. Now, they clean the mare and the stud colts out, that herd the same. The second reason would be that if a mother has a yearling there and has a new colt, that yearling will get all the milk and he'll starve the new colt to death. So nature has given these animals enough intelligence to take care of themselves and propagate their numbers, you know. So it's pretty, I don't know. There's a lot of questions there that aren't answered.
Right. Now tell me something, Kent. What do you think about those Utahs, what the BLM of course calls the Sulphur Herd Management area? Those horses there, what is your opinion on them as far as purity of the Spanish barb and all?
Well, I'd say that sulphur herd, I've always called it the mountain home run.
Right.
That's probably the purest herd of barb horses you'd ever find. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying they couldn't be contaminated. Now, at one time when we were running wild horses, we found one dark chestnut out there that had 4 stalking legs and a bald face. And we tried to catch that horse, but we never did. And he never did have any mares. His feet were probably just sore enough to keep him down so he couldn't whip another stud.
So chances are he didn't breed with them.
No, he didn't breed any mares. He went his whole lifetime there. That horse died of old age, I guess, and we never did catch him, and he never did have mares with him. He run alone. And it's just nature's way of breeding out the weaker individuals. Most of those horses are dun colors. There's some roan. But this is where you got the old-time songs of the zebra dun, and called them grula or gruya, the Mexicans called. These were the color of a mouse. But they had the black line down their back, what we call tiger bars, crossways on the legs, from the knees up a ways. And some seemed like it was more in the males or stallions. Some of them had a black V over the shoulder like a burro. And of course you can see where nature bred this white I was talking about out of them. And probably at one time they were just like deer, elk, cougars, anything. They all had a base color, maybe a little different shade at the base, but everything was relative to that base color that nature made.
But do you think there's, even though, well, I don't know how to word this, the white, that's been a lot of controversy. I know with the Kiger Association up in Oregon, for registering, they discount, the white. I know a lot of these ones in the Sulphur herd management area, mountain home area, you see a lot of, white. Some of them will have patches of white, on the face and the stalking feet. Do you think could this still be something that's ingrained in the horse itself, but not be so much?
I think that was probably contamination that was brought in there with domestic blood that, in the late 30s and early 40s. It's like, say, I doubt you could ever find the pure, unadulterated herd in the United States anymore.
Even the Brislawn horses?
Well,
how do you feel about that?
They would probably be some of the accumulation of some of the purest there is in the different breeds that they have up there. Bob did spend a small fortune traveling into Oklahoma, northeast Texas, Montana, Wyoming. He'd been all over the United States hunting for these good specimens of the early day horse and the Indian pony.
Now, I've seen pictures, videos of his horses, and you see white in them. Stocking feet, blaze face, and all that.
I'm not too fond of the white, and I know nature breeds it out, and it's no different than our land. Well, BLM worries about guys going out there with motorcycles and tearing up this sage and this brush and stuff. Well, if they can actually show me a way to kill that and get rid of it, I got to see it. We can grab places, and there's an example right there, looking out the window. You can grab that out, and in a couple of years, you got brush back. It just keeps coming.
Yeah, just like the white and the horses, it just keeps coming.
Well, once it's in there, it keeps coming. But if it was left alone, it'd breed out.
Eventually.
Right. In a few generations, it'd breed back out. But what they ought to do with these motorcycles and four-wheelers and stuff is tell them, well, we'll let you go out there if you'll just carry a grass seeder on the back of your outfit.
Yeah,
Put a little vibrator grass seeder on it.
Right.
They'd seed the whole country farm in no time, you know. Let them go. They can. Most of this country is solid rock anyway. You're not going to wear it out.
Right, right. But you think that the horses out here in western Utah is a pretty good herd as far as the Spanish. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I've contacted the Spanish Mustang Registry, and I would imagine you have 2 years passed since you belonged to it at one time. You're telling me. What I'd like to see them do is recognize these horses here in Utah, and so that these horses could be registered. But they say that the horses have to have a historical background, and that's basically what I'm looking for here. And I mean, you're familiar with them. What are your feelings, are? Do you think these horses here in Utah deserve to be registered with that organization? What's your feelings on that?
I have had quite a few horses that were registered. In fact, I learned all this about the Mustangs. And very few people know how a breed starts. First, you go by visual inspection. I was an inspector for them for a number of years. Then they go on what they call partially close the books. This means they've either got to have a registered sire or a registered dam. And they leave this partially open in this manner for a number of years. And finally they close the book altogether, close the set books, and they have to have both registered parents. Well, this is where the Spanish registry is today, but I think there's been some confusion there for 2 reasons, or 3 reasons. They've taken the Barb, the Andalusian, and some of these Indian perfected breeds into the same registry, and I don't think they ought to carry them that way. They should segregate. Just give me a minute, and I'll show you some of these good pictures.
Okay.
And, I think I've got some of the original stuff up here.
Oh, really? Huh. Well, how do you feel about these horses here in Utah? Do you think they could be registered with them? I mean, if you were judging and things like that, how would you feel about that?
Oh, I I've got horses. I've got had horses registered in the Spanish registry clear back. Only axes go by stuff. I've got back into the numbers that go back in around 300.
Huh. And were they Utah horses?
Yeah, these were horses that came from the West Desert up here.
Huh.
Bob and Fergie go. They were, good specimens of the barb breed.
Were your horses the only ones from Utah here that were registered?
No. Dave and Grant had some that were registered. There were several guys around Salt Lake.
Had them registered, huh?
Okay, there's the two we originally stuck with. Now here, if we can find this. I'll get this on here, but I'm gonna look at it. Now here's some white showing here. Definitely not straight Mustang seed. Now here's a good one. This looks like a Grula colored horse. But see what a small white appears in his face.
On his nose there's some, yeah.
Just a little snip on his nose and a small star in his head. Now these were some of the Indian points. This is some of the medicine hat without the perfect. I know there's some pictures in here. Now here's a specimen that shows definitely the barb breed. See how it's short and compact in here in the back. Okay, another thing is these horses don't come in here and then come in. They come down and see you're almost straight line in the chest area there. I guess it's more lung capacity or something. But now this is definitely contaminated. See these high
white in there.
High white
so much
legs.
white. Right.
And here is some of your more, goes back to your old original Nez Perce Appaloosa, see? I wanted to show you a picture. See, there's another Grula barb horse. Now look, this is about as high as you ever seen white on.
Okay.
Now this color in the medicine hat or barb on it was hard to keep the color pattern. They'd bounce back and forth. This is why the chief got the perfect mark. Here's one of the Indian blue cards. But I may have some older stud books here because I'm looking for some pictures. I can't remember. Buckshot. This was Bob Brislawn's horse. He was number 1 in this Spanish register.
Now that was a Grula color, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was a Grula.
Did he have any white on him or not?
I don't think that horse had a white hair on him anymore. Then they had old Youth that belonged to Bob's brother Ferdinand, and I believe he had a few white markings, but he definitely had the build of the old Spanish horse.
Tell me something. Did you know Bill Stabler?
Yeah.
You knew him? I phoned him. I talked to him on the phone about all this. He's kind of the one that's gotten me to do this.
I'll tell you a guy that stayed with this. It's Holland Haight. He lives in the state of Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And he's followed a lot of this through. Now they found a horse skeleton at Silver Creek Junction when they built that freeway through. Okay, that horse went to Brigham Young University, the skeleton. And I told them that I could tell they had an argument going there at that time if it was prehistoric or what. And I told them at that time that I could tell them what the horse was. Well, the whole skeleton disappeared and it's never surfaced again.
I'll be darned. I wonder if somebody took off with it.
Why the academic world wants to do these things. Now here's a string of horses, backs and stuff. See, there's no white, very little white in the face, no white on the feet. Here's this old, this is an old couple.
Well, see, I've got a few of the horses that have gone through the adoptions, and I'd like to. Now that's a pretty one there, isn't it? He looks like he might have white on his back foot, right?
One white back foot. See. Little spot in his forehead, under his forelock too.
But I'd like to try to get the horses I have, registered. But they've got to develop a history and all that. But if you've had horses, registered with him in the past that are out of this herd, I don't see why there would be a problem, with
well,
them.
the only thing is they did partially close the books while I was inspecting for them. See, they figure it takes, 16 generations. See, now here's a perfect short back barb. And that one less vertebrae, you can see what it does to them in here.
Right, shortens up their
backs. And
backs.
then the two less pairs of ribs. But see, he's just got a little white boot behind. I'm trying to find, there's one of these somewhere that's got all these registries and numbers and stuff in it. I was going to show you. This is 4. Black Concord. Well, I don't know what they got here. Oh, this is that Kamawi descendants that are registered. That I've got a list here in one of these that shows all these horses I had.
That you had, huh?
Yeah. Now here's a good dictionary.
Right. List of books and all.
Of books and different breed registries. 83 games, 85 and 84. I don't know. I must have some more of these here somewhere.
These look like, I saw the one was 1985.
Yeah, the one's 84 and the other's 85.
Okay. I wonder if yours might be in an older one.
Mine might be, my horses probably are in an older one because I was down in, I had one mare I think was number 298. A stud that was, I don't know, 309 or something like that. And it was down in the lower numbers. I've had 2 horses around here too, so I got married. I laugh at some of this stuff I can do. Married one here a while back to East Bid Rock County State Park. Lost about $16,000 in it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, she told me she wanted the garden spot dug out. She started some tomato plants in the walk-in closet in there.
Oh really? Oh boy.
And son of a big, after she left and moved down to Rock County, I got looking, she had about 200 marijuana plants.
Oh no kidding? It was.
God. About left out.
Well, they've had adoptions within last year. They did a count on the horses over there, and they were counted about 375, and apparently they've adopted out, oh God, it's a little over 200 horses within the last year, or just about almost 200. And but boy, they sure got some nice markings on them, those horses do. I've got some pictures out in the little truck that I want to show you before I take off too, of the horses that I got, some of them.
Well, I'd say if you watch what you're doing on this confirmation and stuff, this Sulphur herd is probably one of the best ones you can find.
Mm-hmm.
It's and I was kidding. You said you were starting in Buffalo?
Mm-hmm.
I've done a little on them, and then I raised some, well, I had Longhorns here.
Oh, really? Huh.
That's
one
nice
of them,
set of horns.
Yeah, that you had, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I made a mistake, though. He was a 5-year-old, and I killed him for beef.
Mm-hmm.
He's 52 1/4 inch,
Huh.
straight across. The world record is only 72. The world record was 14 years old, and this steer was only 5.
Yeah. You would have got some more growth, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, they just keep growing. You can see the growth rate
Yeah,
in
right.
around the base.
Uh-huh.
Well, you can see by this set.
Yeah.
Plastic,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you don't,
Huh. Well, you know, you're saying that all of the more domestic horses that came in the herd, that there was a good chance a lot of them just didn't survive or didn't breed into the herd. Is that right?
yeah. It was pretty tough. Them
Yeah.
old Mustangs, the real old Mustangs,
Yeah.
they killed them. The
Oh,
busted
yeah.
studs they turned
Huh.
out.
Well, I can imagine. I can believe it.
Well, it's nature's way. They just know how. I watched a horse I brought in. I cut him off water out on Mountain Home. He was a real good bark specimen, but he was smooth mouth, so I know he's over 12 years old.
Yeah, right.
Well, I broke him, or I rode him. I never did break him. He'd be going along riding that horse, and he'd happen to glance back. I guess he'd forget, and then he'd glance back and see you on him, and he'd light into bucking. And I never could get him over it. So he went into the bucking school, professional bucking school.
Oh, I see.
So that was a forget. Okay, now there's one of your Indian blue cones.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You can see what they are. Now this is stuck up. I was looking somewhere in here.
Yeah.
Now this Emmett
Uh-huh.
Brislawn had this. He's buckskin horse.
I got to get a picture of this. Yeah. Okay.
Buckskin horse.
Okay.
He was
Smoky.
number,
Huh.
he was number 3 in the
Uh-huh.
registry.
Okay. Huh.
So
Yeah. Okay.
and, oh, here we go.
Oh, those are
Now,
yours.
these
Okay.
marked
Uh-huh.
were horses that were registered in Salt Lake Valley.
Okay. Okay.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, yeah. Farrell from Utah.
13,
Farrell from
14,
Utah.
15.
Hmm.
There's 15 that was registered right in Salt Lake
They
County.
were from Utah here, huh?
Yeah, and see,
Okay.
these show as feral,
Mhm.
or they was caught wild and then inspected.
Mm-hmm.
And went
passed,
into the
huh?
original registry.
Right.
This was one of my horses.
Okay.
Came from the Sulphur herd out here.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Buckskin mare, okay.
This was one from out there.
Okay, 268 and 267, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I had, what was his number?
Your phone.
He was really a good.
Uh-huh. Do you want to get that? Think of them. This, I don't have this stallion, the Gregersen stallion here. The BLM put him back in with the herd. He was 11 years old, and they thought he was such a good-looking horse.
Yeah. Now
they
this
put him back in.
Okay. See this?
Mhm.
Now they done the right thing there. There's some of these guys that are probably learning some of this. See this line down his back? He hasn't got the real good finger bars like I have seen come out of there.
Now see, these
is
are
a
from him. This bay mare was running with him, and this is his foal.
Yeah.
Both of these are both fillies, and they're both out of
here's
him.
your tiger stripe right there. See him
Right.
on the on the front leg here. And then some of these studs that have that dark V over the shoulder. Now this is the one they call the Grula or Grullo, the Mexican call. See, he's got no white in his face. You'll notice a lot of this herd of horses hasn't got white in their face. Now there's another thing about this I can show you on this horse. See how much farther back this wither hump goes and blends into the back, way back. Okay, this puts from the point of the shoulder to the back of the wither. They claim that a horse needs a perfect triangle. You draw a triangle through that. And this makes the horse so he's probably faster.
Oh, yeah.
He don't expend energy lunging. He folds and unfolds like a measuring mark. This is why they got so much endurance. They're not expending too much energy when they run. See.
Well, these horses were all blood typed. They blood typed them back in Kentucky, and I called the guy, and he gave me the information, and he said they do have the markers for the Spanish ancestry.
Yeah. Well, this is good. I'm glad to see the BLM starting to turn some of these back.
See this now. This is these. This is the same ones. This is those. Now I've got these three. This is the mother, and she's blood typed to Spanish Mustang too.
Yeah.
Also.
You get some bays in these.
She's got real hooked ears too.
Most of them, yeah. Now this is the little gotched ear. See on the inside. This was quite a marker. That also came in the Andalusian horse. Some of those were taken off North Utah and Cedar Mountain. Okay, now there's another thing that very few people notice, and I don't know whether you can see it on some of these or not. Now this horse got the real cute little notched ears. Is that the same one? No?
Yeah, it's the same one.
Yeah, it is. Okay, but right in the end of these, on the buckskin, sometimes they'll have 5 to 10 white hair right in the tip of the ear.
The tips, huh?
It's really not that visible.
Yeah.
See, this is a good colt. He's got only one little white boot. A half moon in his head.
Right. Yeah. See, this one, these two are both sisters. These two are.
Yeah.
This one was yearling, this one was a new one. Now, she's got quite a bit of white in her feet. She's got the two back white, she's got a little speck of white here, and then she's got another half moon in her, too.
Now, here's another thing, that you go back into this ancient Mustang breed, and you'll find a lot of your good Mustang doesn't have any rear chestnuts and no ergats.
Yeah, that's what I heard, too.
I've had 2 or 3
that didn't have anything.
That didn't have ergats, and I've had 2 or 3 that all their back chestnuts was no bigger than my chest.
Yeah, just real small, huh? That's the way they are on this mare. They're real small on her.
Yeah.
Now this one right here is this one. She's just a little older there. This was last winter.
What'd you do? Did you adopt this one?
Right. I've adopted these, all 3 of these, and then this one here I got also. I got her a little later, and she dropped a new foal this spring, and that's her foal. Now it's got good stripes there too.
Oh, that's going to be a dandy, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. She's got a speck. If you can see it right here, the only white on her is
Yeah.
on her back foot, just a tiny speck, right
Yeah.
there. The mother has just a tiny speck on her forehead, and that's the only white they have.
No.
And I don't have any pictures, but I got another one that doesn't have any white on her at all. Let's see if we've got any. Yeah, this is the mama. There.
That's a good colt. Now, this is real noticeable in the colt. What I telling you about this different shaped chest.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that colt's chest
Yeah.
and the shoulder point,
Yeah.
how it sticks out
Right.
there.
Mm-hmm.
It's prominent. I've had a couple of them that were caved in.
Hmm.
Instead of having a round chest, they looked like they were caved in from the points of the shoulder. And those horses, for some reason, had real good wind.
Hmm.
They held up good and had good wind,
Huh.
those horses.
Well, this is the stallion I got. These are pictures of him too.
And he's got definite
Yeah.
tiger
Yeah.
bars on his leg. He's kind of in poor condition right there.
Yeah. See, I just barely got him,
What
and
is he?
he was taken off in the winter.
What is he, an older horse?
He's 5 years old. He's
Oh,
5,
that's
but
good.
it was a hard winter, and so he's starting to look a lot better now.
Yeah. Have you tried to break him?
I've been working on him. I got him so he can lead now, but he doesn't have any white on him at all. But he's got real good leg stripes. They show up if he was cleaner. They'd show up a lot more. But he was kind of muddy in there.
Yeah. Well, and they'll show up a lot better when the winter hair sheds up. But now, you can see here, when a horse is down in poor flesh, this croup bone, it looks like it moves back, but it doesn't. It's just covered with meat and fat. See, his shoulder goes back quite a ways there. If you can count his ribs. Now, do you want to see exactly how to tell a horse's age?
How's that?
You don't go by their teeth. You go by the ribs. You come over from the point of the hip right there. Okay, see that first rib? That's your floating. You can stick the points of your fingers between those ribs. And one rib will open for every 2 years.
Huh. I'll be doggone.
If you get down in here and this is only half open, you know he's at his odd year instead of even. This first one, it'll be open at 2 years. And you just take a kind of a down moon motion there and check with the tips of your fingers between those ribs. You can tell exactly how
I'll
old.
be darned.
This is why as the ribs spread, as the horse gets in advanced age, his back sways. And this is why. Now the teeth will, at times, they'll lie to you, but the ribs won't.
I'll be darned. I never knew that. Huh. So,
Well, the old-time horse traders used to take these horses and they'd grind new cups and everything in them, make them look younger,
yeah,
and
right.
then trade them off.
Yeah.
Well, somebody got smart and they learned how to tell the exact age by the ribs.
By the ribs. Nobody could fool with the ribs.
Nobody could fool with that.
That's smart.
So,
Yeah.
that's a good
real
way
smart.
to stop the old horse traders, you know.
Well, anyway, those are the horses that I've got. There's just one other one that I don't have any pictures of. But what do you think about them as far as the marks and stuff like
Those
that?
look like good horses. Those really, I was kind of sad to see him close this registry. I would like to see him split some of the Indian breeds out of the registry. Even if it stayed in the Spanish, because I'm sure they're all Spanish descent, or what they call Spanish, native descent, native to this country. But you've got so many animals that are native to certain countries and don't exist in others. See, they haven't got these American bison anywhere else. All these different continents developed their own. And this is what makes the good argument is, evolution versus religion versus breeds of animals and so forth. I'm kind of like old Emmett Brislawn said. He said, Dad goes around, old Bob goes around and talks all this stuff. And he says, all I can tell him is I didn't know, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So it makes
Hard
good
to tell.
argument, but
Oh yeah.
we all have different outlook on it because, our geographic area and so forth, we all see different things.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, do you want a Coke?
No, I drank
Okay.
while I was driving down. I had a cherry Coke, you know. Well, this has been real good. This information, I think that's about. Tell me something. Is there anybody in town that's got a copy machine?
School?
Or just the school? That's all. Huh?
Yeah, they'll do copies for me.
None of the stores. Huh? I'd like to get.
Well, the store's broke down.
Oh, really? I'd like to get a copy of what you wrote in here. That's why I'm asking. I was wondering if I could take it, you know, and get a copy while I was here, and then come back and give it back to you.
Yeah, we can run out and get some copies. I think they're only 10 cents a sheet.
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Would you mind doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I've got to get some linen or mylar and redo those in ink. I got divorced and lost that stuff. And then I had, I traveled around lecturing on these different, and I had some beautiful slides of different horses.
Oh, really?
Showing the typing and breeds. This was when the registry first started. That was in, was through the 60s.
Yeah.
Well, see, the Spanish registry is probably, it's about 40 years old now.
Right.
And they have got a few more horses in the last few years. But,
What happened to all your horses? Did you just end up selling them all, or the ones you got registered and all?
well, that one, I was running these Longhorns up here on this rough mountain, and he was getting some age on him. He was 20-something. And he was getting a little stiff in the front end, and I was afraid he'd fall. He's down here in Annabelle right now,
Oh,
but
really?
he got cancer in the prostate area, and they had to gild him after I sold him. So then I had one brown horse here. I was, he's a good saddle horse. I gilded him, but he got out here about a year ago and got killed on the highway. And then I've got a half-breed out here. I had a good mare here that belonged to this last ex-wife. I bred her to a thoroughbred horse. That's the only horse I got left.
Oh, yeah.
Got rid of the cattle, didn't need
Yeah.
some money.
I'll be doggone. Well, did you have the Watusi?
Oh yeah.
You had some of them too, huh?
Yeah, I had Watusis and Longhorns. I got in on this artificial insemination. I had stuff. This was the first bull ever brought into the United States. Daryl Dickinson brought him in over in eastern Colorado. And
This was Kent Gregersen that I just got through interviewing and talked about the horses.